Hello everyone, this is Spirit with Bewitched Adventures. It's nice to see you again. I'm sorry it's been so long since I last recorded, but I did want to go ahead and do a recording with you now that I have moved. We're still not settled in. You might see a little bit of clutter on the stove in the background, but we are currently unpacking and still moving around and stuff, so I hope you'll forgive that. So today I wanted to talk about authenticity in the witchcraft community. So one of the challenging topics that I have found is watching people that are new to the community become little carbon copies of the YouTubers they're watching, people that they idolize a little bit. And while there's nothing wrong with using those people as a source of information, I want to encourage people to take charge of their own education and their own journey and realize that we are all on different paths, and that path doesn't need to look exactly like anybody else's. In fact, it really can't. So be you, right? I want you to be yourself. I want you to go out there, research things, and experiment with things, and experience the things that the witchcraft path does, or paths really, has to offer. It is fair to say that while we all share some things in common, particularly the witchcraft label, that we are not all the same people and we do not have the same lives. You want to go out there and be you. You don't want to go out there and be somebody else. And I think that that is one of the harder things to learn, is how to just be us, right? How to be authentically us and respect that other people are them. And while they say imitation is one of the better forms of flattery, we also don't want to be replicas of somebody else. We want to allow them to be themselves, and we want to be ourselves, and we want to have our own unique experiences in life. Now, while this is my opinion, and I honestly suggest that you take that opinion and use it to form your own, I did want to just put this out there because I feel like there is a lot of accidentally doing this. I don't think a lot of people do it intentionally. I think that they see somebody else and they're like, yeah, that person's really cool. I want to be exactly like that person. But you're never going to be exactly that other person. The only way to be that other person is if you are that other person. And it's kind of creepy to try to be exactly somebody else. So the healthiest response, I feel, is to figure out who you are, what you stand for, and journey based on what you learn and experience. Don't try to be exactly somebody else. And so I think being authentic is a very respectful and admirable thing to be attempting to do. This isn't to say that you're not going to find similarities or things in common with other people, that you may not look similar, dress similar, or even have similar beliefs. And those things are okay. Just try to be you and not that other person. I think another topic I would really like to talk about is the hate that we are experiencing in, well, really the world in general, but how it applies to the witchcraft community. And there are so many different people that come from so many different walks of life, that there are so many different ways to love and hate. And it is up to us as individuals to see when we are hating on somebody for no apparent reason, or for what most people might not consider a good reason. like the color of our skin, the culture we come from, religious beliefs, political standpoints, things like that that are well out of most people's control and based on their life experiences, things that aren't hurting people. It's one thing to hate an individual because of something traumatic that happened to you, something horrible that caused you to view that person or thing with hate. But to encompass an entire group of people based on something well out of their control is not something I personally encourage, and it is generally frowned upon in polite society. Um, I'm not going to give you a speech telling you that everyone is good, that everyone should be loved. No, there are people out there that will hurt you in life, and they don't necessarily deserve your good feelings. I don't believe that I personally want to go out of my way to give them my energy by hating them. I think that hating people actually is giving them more energy and value than often those people are worth. I generally try to let go of them and just move on with my life without giving them that kind of energy and thought. I don't want them trapped in my head. I want them gone. So if I've gotten to the point where I hate somebody, I typically, I they had to have done something incredibly horrible to me. And it has happened. There are people that I have hated. Not typically people that I continue to hate now. I have found that for me, hating is more trouble than it's worth. I do my best to put it out of my mind, like I said before. So I would consider that, right? There are things in your life that maybe you don't need to put that much energy into. And hate, much like love, they're intense emotions. And if you are putting forth all that energy into hating somebody, think about what you could do with all that energy, all those thoughts, if you just let it go, right? There's so much more you could apply that energy to in your life. But I think that there are a lot of things outside of just letting go of hate too. There's, conversations that could be led into like cultural appropriation, closed practices, gatekeeping, things like that, that people hate, that there is a lot of controversy around within the witchcraft community at the moment. And I would love to get into those topics too. But for the moment, I am going to move on to another related topic, which I think is going to be listening and being compassionate in the things that you do. And while I don't want to give a huge lecture about being a good, ethical, upstanding, morally large person, I do feel like it is worth pointing out that you're probably going to get more out of conversations, even unsavory ones, if you actually listen and pay attention to what somebody is saying. If you actually try to see things from their point of view and approach things from a compassionate perspective, or at least as close to one as you can get. In general, I try to approach things and people, conversations from a point of view that is positive, because I want that positivity in my life, and I feel like if I want it in my life, I need to give it to others too. feel like what you put out, you often attract back. And that is something worth note about me, but maybe it isn't for you, and that's okay too. I do, however, suggest that regardless of the topic, you hear somebody out and try to see things from their point of view. If you can't agree with them on something, then at least try to tolerate their perspective and offer them the same respect that hopefully they're providing you. Something that I have seen in the social media, the online community in general, really, is that in the 90s and maybe the early 2000s, when the internet was still pretty new, we used to see a lot of conversation about privacy and security and stuff. And I do now see, especially in the younger crowds, people sharing their personal information and falling for scams and stuff really easily. And so I do want to push that people should maybe be a little more reserved about offering out their names, addresses, phone numbers, email addresses, and other forms of personal information, especially things like your credit card information or driver's license number, social security number, those kinds of things. I know it's kind of common sense, but we seem to be very trusting, especially in individual communities, and I've seen it within the witchcraft communities, particularly on Facebook, where people are just responding to comments and putting their personal information out there. And there's a lot of bad things that can happen from that, from minor annoyances, getting a lot of junk email, to people outright stealing your identity or harassing you in person, right? There's a lot of bad things that can come from that. I'm not saying be entirely paranoid, just be safe. Rolling into that, there are a lot of scams out there, especially in the witchcraft community. You're going to see people offering to do tarot readings for money. And while I don't think that's entirely a bad thing, there are a lot of people out there that will claim a lot of experience, abilities to contact the dead, and other beings. And I want to put out there that while it is nice sometimes to have an outside perspective, things like tarot cards and runes and stuff are tools for you to get answers. But often those answers can be found yourself. You don't necessarily need to pay somebody $30 or $100 for a reading. And like I said, oftentimes people are exploiting a skill or a hobby, if you will, an approach to things that I don't necessarily feel needs, that kind of stuff. It would be like paying for prayer or something like that, right? You can go see a counselor, and oftentimes with insurance, you're going to pay a $30 or $50 copay, and you're going to get to see somebody that has a master's degree or a doctorate degree, and they're qualified medical professionals that went through a lot of schooling to get there. Where sometimes these people that are charging for classes that are $1,000 for, this 3-hour course, or information that you can find anywhere on the internet for free, with maybe a little twist of their perspective on things, it doesn't come off savory to me. It leaves a bitter taste in my mouth, because I feel like there are a lot of people that are taking advantage of others, right? Anybody can go out and buy a deck of tarot cards and oracle cards, spend a few hours on YouTube and start reading. And to do that and then go and suddenly be charging people an arm and a leg for a reading that they could do themselves. Just, I don't know, it just doesn't sit well with me. If I do tarot readings and stuff on my Twitch channel, which I used to do pretty regularly, I would do so for free or for tips. And I feel like that is a much better approach to it. Not to say that my way is the only way, or that tarot reading cannot be done for money, just that it seems to be kind of looked at as a parlor trick sometimes. You'll go to like the Renaissance fairs or other events, and you'll just have people like just a ridiculous amount of money for a 5-minute reading. And I don't think it's bad to give people money if you know what you're getting into, but especially when somebody's brand new to it and they're just going out there, just approach it knowing that you don't have to give people money, right? There's plenty of information out there. You are more than capable of making educational decisions, doing research, things like that on your own. You do not need to take these $1,000 classes. You do not need to pay other people to do tarot readings for you. And I think that's what I want you to take away from this. I think I want you to understand that it is well within your own capabilities and capabilities, and I just think you can do it yourself and you don't have to pay for it. If you go into it knowing that, and it's something fun for you, and you want to pay somebody to get a fresh perspective or something, then that's something entirely different. Just don't let people take advantage of you. And one of the things that you can probably assert is that there's no guarantees. And I think that's true for life in general, right? There's nothing really that's guaranteed other than the fact that you are going to die. One day you're going to die. It's just a fact, right? I mean, but other than that, there's nothing really that you can guarantee to somebody, at least not 100%. And so to come across people that are saying, oh yes, I 100% guarantee that this spell casting is going to work for you. I will hex your enemy and they will feel the fires of hell. Like, okay, maybe that's catchy. Maybe you're really angry at somebody, and just maybe don't give them $500 for something that nobody can guarantee. Again, most spells and things like that, I think most people are well capable of doing themselves. I think that a lot of people lack the confidence to do these things themselves, especially when they're new to researching and practicing witchcraft. And I don't think that encouraging people to spend hundreds, if not thousands of dollars on witchcraft is altogether practical. And I think that's one of the beautiful things about witchcraft, is it doesn't have to be something that's incredibly expensive. You can use the things around your house. A lot of it's folk practices, and folk practices used what was available to them in their cultures, or whatever origin those practices come from. And they didn't use things in the past that weren't available to them. They didn't have Etsy and eBay and Amazon to order things from across the world. They didn't even have that to order it out of town. They oftentimes went out foraging, found things in their front yard, and used those things. Maybe even in their kitchen cupboard. So there are a lot of things to be said about making sure that you're making informed decisions. And of course, I encourage you not to scam other people either. So just maybe approach things from an educated point of view and respectful and be compassionate in the things that you do. And I think that is, you know, a great way to approach life in general. Not everybody's going to agree with me, and that's okay. But I do think that there are a lot of tough, controversial topics out there like these that do need to be covered. And maybe my opinions are not the most popular. I hesitate to say, but this could have been probably labeled as an unpopular opinions video. Um, but just, you know, be smart, be wise. Don't let people take advantage of you, and don't take advantage of other people. All right, have yourselves a wonderful day.